Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the War Train here. Do me a favor, if you're not already subscribed, think about subscribing to the channel, guys. I try to put gaming content out like this on a regular basis, and if you guys enjoy this video, do me a favor, please give it a thumbs up. Now with that said, today's video, I want to show you guys my Nintendo 64 cartridge collection. In a recent video, I actually showed off my Super Nintendo collection, and it was a lot of fun just showing you guys what I have this far. Now, these collections are always a work in progress. I'm always looking for just new titles to add to the collection. So I like watching these videos. Honestly, I love watching other people's collections. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna show my cartridge collections to you guys. So stick with me and let's check out these games. Alright guys, so my Nintendo 64 collection is modest. It's not huge or anything. A bunch of these games I actually have from when I was a teenager. A lot of them are original games that I picked up back in the day. I have added some new ones to the collection over the years, but not a whole lot. And the games that I have are honestly some of the best games, in my opinion, on the system. Now, there's definitely still some games that I don't have that I eventually want to get, and I plan on getting, all in time. There's a lot of different collections that I'm always looking for, and this is one of them. I absolutely love the Nintendo 64. It came out around the time I was a teenager. I want to say I was about 18 when it came out. So at that point, I already had a job. I could buy my own system, buy games. It was pretty fun. And man, there was some great stuff, as you know, that came out around that time. So let's just dive right into these games. So first off, one that I actually recently got is this guy right here, and that is Pokemon Stadium 2. This is a really clean cart in such great shape, and I got this from GameStop, out of all places. It actually was, somebody sold it to them, and I got a nice little lot of games from there, so I was pretty excited when I got the call to go pick these up. Okay, so moving along, this one is an absolute classic on the system, in my opinion. I absolutely love this game, and it's funny because this still has a Blockbuster video sticker on it, and that's where I bought this. I bought this off of Blockbuster because my friend had this game, and it was really a great game, and I had to have it too, and I seen it for a good price back in the day at Blockbuster, so I picked it up, and that is Rogue Squadron Star Wars. This is an absolute great game. The first one was always my favorite of this, and there went to be a whole bunch of these, but this one always was my favorite back then. And this is another one I got a few years back. I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I actually picked this up for my daughter, and it's not the greatest copy. It's got some marker on the on the sticker, which kind of stinks, but it's all good because the game works absolutely fine, and that is Pokemon Snap. I know a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for this game. It's one that I do not have any nostalgia for. I just gotta be honest. When Pokemon came out, I wasn't like real into it. I was, a little older. I thought it was like a kid's thing. I just didn't really know much about it. So, now it doesn't bother me, and I do enjoy some of the games. So it's funny how things change as you get older. Plus, I have kids of my own now, so they enjoy it as well. The next one is another one I recently got, and an absolutely awesome game. I am glad that I finally have this in my collection, and that is Doom 64. Now, I'm a big Doom fan, so I was really happy when I was able to get this, and this was another one out of the lot from GameStop, so absolutely awesome. And this cart is in awesome shape, guys. And this next one, this was this guy's first adventure in the 3D, real 3D anyway, and that is Kirby 64. We got a lot of characters that this was their first introduction to 3D. And, back at the time, the 3D was absolutely amazing. It was so clean looking because you had like the PlayStation, at the time, and you get a lot of warping and just It just didn't have that clean look that the 64 had at the time. And this game is a huge game. Everybody knows this. It's an absolute classic, and that is GoldenEye 007. And this is actually a recent pickup as well. Now, this is a game that I used to have, but I did not have my original cart anymore. But I was glad to add this one back into the collection. Another one in really decent shape, so definitely happy to have this game again. And this next one is also from the GameStop lot. An absolute great pickup. I got a bunch of great 64 games at one time. I was really happy with that pickup. And this game is actually a lot of fun. I never played this back in the day, but I'm glad I own it now and actually want to pick up the second one. And this is Snowboard Kids. And this is also a really good shape cart right here. This thing is really in nice shape. So I love seeing cartridges that were taken care of. I hate when they're all beat up and have marker on it. And I never understood that, why people write on their games with marker. I understand like they don't want to mix them up with people, but there's other ways to do that. Don't write on them with a black marker. It's silly. And this next one is a great game that I did also pick up in the same GameStop lot where I had just all these great games in one pickup, and that is Paper Mario. So if you watched any of my recent pickup videos in the last couple months, I'm sure you've seen this one where I got a bunch of these games, and this was one I was really happy to add to the collection. This thing also in absolutely immaculate shape. There was some other great games, but it was getting pricey, I gotta say, once I started adding all these games up. But some of them I really wanted, but they were just too beat up, and it was like, I could find a better copy. So I was like, I'll hold off, because they weren't uncommon games or anything. So I want to say I might have got this from that lot, or maybe not. I might have picked this up a different time, but this was also a recent pickup, and that is NFL Blitz 2000. So pretty sweet. Now honestly, I think this is my only sports game on the Nintendo 64. And you got to show some love for the older sports games. They definitely have a unique play style to them. Certain ones are really fun because they have more of an arcadey feel than now. Things are more about realism and stuff. But back then, you had all kinds of great arcadey sports titles that were a blast to play. And this next one is an absolute blast. One of the best games on this system, honestly, and this paved the way for all the other kart racers after that, and that's Mario Kart 64, of course. This pretty much redefined Mario Kart because we had it on the Super Nintendo, which was an absolutely great game at the time using Mode 7. But man, I'll tell you what, when this one came out, with the 4-player multiplayer and just, where you could play 4 players on the screen at one time, it was just amazing. I remember the first time I ever seen an actual, modern TV, a flat screen that was I want to say it wasn't even really huge, but at the time it seemed huge. I think it was like a 50-some inch, and I was playing Mario Kart with 4 people on there, and I was just blown away how each, part of the screen was so big. Because I was used to playing on something so much smaller, and how good it looked. I think it was like a plasma at the time. So we've came a long way. So now that's all standard. But this cart is in excellent shape as well. And like I said, one of the best games on the platform. And the next one here, no stranger either. And that is Donkey Kong 64. Now, you needed the expansion pack to play this game. I want to say I got my expansion pack with Majora's Mask, possibly. So I don't think I got it with this game. I know some of the games you actually got, the pack with it. And I still have my original expansion pack, and my well, it's my second Nintendo 64, because I actually had one right when they came out, and you know, I had it for a couple of years, and then I think I sold it, and then I rebought it, and that's when I got the Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer or whatever edition. And man, I had that box for years. I wish I never got rid of it. That was not a good move. But this isn't in bad shape, but the back does have a little nick in the sticker, so that's kind of unfortunate. But still, just a classic game on the platform. And the next one is one that I recently picked up, and this was in the GameStop lot too, and that is Tony Hawk I can't even talk. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. This is an absolute classic. At the time, everybody and their brother, sister, or whoever, everybody was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It was huge back then. And anybody that was, you know, a small kid to a young adult at that time was playing Tony Hawk, I can tell you that. Even people you didn't think would be playing Tony Hawk were playing it. Alright, so the next one is a game that I don't know if a ton of people know this game. I know some people do. I've seen it on some lists, but this game is great. It was always one of my favorites on the Nintendo 64, and that is Blast Corps. This is such a unique game. Just so many different things you do in this game. I always thought it was a lot of fun. You're always on a timer, so it was super stressful, and it was challenging. And I never did fully complete this game, but man, it did get super hard towards the end. And just a blast to play. I still have fun playing this game to this day. And that one is one of my originals. And the next one here is another one of my originals, and that is Wave Race 64. Just an absolute great game. Another one. This was one of the best on the platform, and honestly, when the system first came out, there was only a couple games I was playing, and this was one of them, because it was some of the only games you could actually get for the system. This was an early game on the system. I want to say we were playing Super Mario 64 and Wave Race like crazy. I mean, just pretty much alternating the games. But when we had friends around, we played this all the time. Absolutely great game. Still totally holds up. The water effects in it were amazing at the time. And another great game on here. I think this is the best one in the series, and you know, other people may disagree, but I always like this one the best, and that is Star Fox 64. You know, you just had more range in the 3D space in this one. Instead of just pretty much moving straight forward, you could pretty much go wherever. And just what a blast. This is actually an original cart that I had from back then. So pretty excited that I still have this. And the next one is something I got a few years back just because I wanted to play it. This is another great game, and that is Diddy Kong Racing. You know, a lot of people played a ton of this. I didn't play too much of it back then. I did play it, but not like I played some of these other ones. Not like Wave Race or Mario Kart. You know, those just played so much of them. But this is a really fun game as well. It just gives you some different characters and just, you know, different stages and stuff that are just different than Mario. So, absolutely great game. And the next one, back at the time, this was a great game. Going back and playing it now, it doesn't hold up so well, especially since we've been spoiled with the newest one, and that is Spider-Man for the 64. I always thought that was really cool that this one came in the red cart, because this game came out for multi platforms. You had it on PlayStation and stuff, but you know, it seemed to be a bit smoother, in my opinion, on the 64. You know, it was just, I think too, maybe it depended on just what you played this on, but at the time this wasn't a bad game. It actually has Stan Lee in the beginning as like the narrator, I guess you would call it, but it doesn't hold up so well these days. Especially like we just got Spider-Man on PS4, and it just shows you how far we've come compared to that. Now, this is the game that I got with that system, and that is Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer. You know, this was, at the time, like I said, I was about 18 when the Nintendo 64 came out. So, this was when the trilogy prequels were coming out. And, it was on everything. It was Star Wars everything for years. And it was awesome to see, especially because I, grew up in the era where Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were just coming out. So Star Wars, the original one, was already out, by the time I was, born and stuff. But the other ones came out later. So, it was something I grew up into right from the beginning is Star Wars. So there was a long break. And then this prequel stuff came out. It was a big deal. And anybody that, was a kid or whatever back then, they remember it, I'm sure. Because you couldn't go anywhere without seeing the stuff. And this is the best, probably the best game on this system. I mean, this was the game to have and to get the system with. And that is Super Mario 64. Now, some people, this is still their favorite Super Mario game. And it was an absolute, just instant classic. It was just so great to move Mario in a 3D space. It was just felt so smooth, and the joystick, you understood why you needed a joystick when you played this game. It just felt so right, and just what a great platformer. This game maybe don't look the greatest now, but I think it definitely still holds up, and people still really like playing this game because it is fun. Alright, and this next one, like I said, being a little older when this system came out, games like this were great just to play by myself, just hanging out, and that is 1080 snowboarding. This was one of the favorite snowboarding game at the time for years. For the longest time, this was just my absolute favorite. It wasn't until some of the SSX tricky games started kind of coming out and just really coming into their own and stuff. But before SS tricky games, this was the snowboarding game to play. There was another one. I want to say it was Amped. It just wasn't doing it for me. Not like this one. I think there was also Cool Borders, but this one, for whatever reason, I just like this one. Just the controls and everything, it just felt right to me. So this was one of my favorite games on the Nintendo 64 as well. I played this a lot, and obviously this is an original cart of mine. And the same thing with the Mario 64, also an original cart. Okay, so moving along, this is one I bought some years back, but also a game that I did, play back then. And another first into the 3D space. Like I said, it was for a lot of these characters, and that is Yoshi with Yoshi's Story. This is a really colorful looking game, and I want to say this kind of has still a sort of 2D style to it, even though it's somewhat 3D, but definitely a really colorful game. Not my favorite Yoshi game, but it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. And this cart is in pretty good shape. Alright, so now we're jumping into some really great games, and all of these are my originals here. And the first one I'm going to show you is Super Smash Brothers. Now, we all know where Smash Brothers has gone now with Ultimate. Absolutely great game. Now, at the time, this was insane. I remember when this first commercial came out with Mario and Donkey Kong and Yoshi and stuff. I think it was Yoshi and was it maybe Pikachu? I forget. It was a bunch of characters running through a field, and it had this nice, song playing and everything. And then all of a sudden they started punching and kicking each other, and they're rolling around punching each other. I was like, yo, what is this? And it was Smash Brothers, and I was like, wow, I have to check this game out. And you know, this was promoted. I think I want to say they had this set up at like game stores and stuff that you could go check out the game and stuff. But pretty awesome game, and we obviously know this is a huge Smash hit pretty much from this point on. I mean, every game has done well. I don't think there has been any Smash games that flopped. So, great game. Doesn't hold up as great as it, maybe did in the past. It still isn't bad. It's still fun to play. But we all know what came after this, Melee, and what a jump. I mean, an absolute huge jump, because this game has some really low polygons, even for on the Nintendo 64. If you look at, say, Link from, Ocarina of Time to this, or Mario from Mario 64 to this, there was definitely a downgrade in the polygon count, that's for sure. Especially with somebody with like Star Fox, big difference. But absolutely great game, still fun to play. Actually, me and my son have played that within the last year quite a bit, so pretty cool. It's fun jumping back into these classic games. And jumping back into some classics right here, game changer, absolute game changer. This game just blew my mind. When I beat this game, I was sad because I just did not want it to end. I actually 100%ed this. I took my time with this game. I had the strategy guide because it needed one. Especially then, I mean, I didn't know what to do. There was no internet and stuff. It was like, I wanted to get all the gold sculptulas, all that stuff. Just to find to plant beans and all this stuff. So, I used the strategy guide. I wind up 100% in the game, which, some of the heart containers I remember were in spots I probably would have never found them, honestly. But, after I beat it, I was sad. And I had to start the game over, and I 100%ed it again. And this is the first game I actually 100%ed it. I love the story to this game, and it just really stuck with me. This became my favorite game of all time for a long time. Honestly, pretty much until like Breath of the Wild. But this is a great game, still to this day. If I want to play this now, I probably wouldn't play it on the 64. I would either play it on my GameCube with the GCHD, because I have, the GameCube version or whatever with the Master Edition, or I would probably play it on my 3DS, because, man, it looks great on 3DS. The upgrades that they did, they work. I like that a lot. So I think that's kind of the definitive version of it now, but still an absolutely great game, and I would play it on 64 anyway, in a heartbeat. Just to play it. I mean, it's just a fun game. And the next one, another absolute great game, Majora's Mask. Another one. I'll tell you what, when this came out a year later, I was stumped. I was at a game store and I seen this on the shelf, and I didn't understand what was happening. I've told the story before. I was just so confused. I didn't understand how a Zelda game could be out again, like especially that quick, because they never did that. Not that fast. Not since the first one to the second one, and that was a whole nother level. We're talking, coming off of Ocarina of Time, which was a monstrous game, especially back then. The game was huge, and to just have another game out a year later, it blew my mind. So when I realized and I snapped out of it and realized that this was actually a thing, I left with it. Got with the strategy guide, of course, and man, am I glad I bought that one, because this one I needed it worse than Ocarina of Time, because the whole time mechanic it blew my mind. I think I even had a hard time with the strategy guide back then. But I wound up making my way through this game, and absolutely great. I didn't like it as much as Ocarina of Time, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. And, I really do like what they did with this game on the 3DS. It looks great on there. They did some really great upgrades to the game. They did kind of hurt some of the gameplay mechanics, like when he turned into a Zora, and the swimming isn't as good, or like the Deku scrub. when you're, just like hopping across the water and stuff. It just doesn't feel the same. But regardless, with those little issues, not a problem. The game looks great. Absolute upgrade. I mean, it's basically almost a remaster, I guess you could call it, in a way. But definitely a really cool game and really dark. And I know a lot of people that, from back then don't like this game. I still talk to people that are like, I didn't really care for that one, but it is a good game. I know some people it's their favorite, but it's definitely worth playing, that's for sure. And the last one, I'm only showing it last because I actually just got another copy of it. If you've seen my last video, I got this. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. And in that video, I was talking about the original cart having the Stormtrooper on it. So this is that cart with the Stormtrooper, and here is the new one with a different cover art. So it's definitely interesting. Like I said, I'm probably never be putting this in my system. You never know though, I might one day just say, the hell with it, open it up and put it in. I mean, really I have no reason to, because I could just play it here. But absolutely great game. I loved this game back then. I played a lot of this game. Another game, this is another one that I winded up just playing through to the end. And I guess I never really noticed it, but I have a player's choice version. I can't remember if this is my original or not. I don't remember. I might have got rid of it and rebought it. But absolute great, because I lost some of my stuff from when I was a kid, so I don't even have all the games that I had back then, but I got some of them back through the years or whatever, and a few of them are originals. But this is my collection of Nintendo 64 up to this point. Let me know what you guys think. What are your favorite games on the Nintendo 64? I mean, there's some games that I still want to get for this system, but there's other systems that I'm looking for games for. I mean, there's just so many great systems at this point, and it's hard to collect and find stuff for them all. But I think I have a pretty solid collection of the stuff that I like on the system. But like I said, you might have a totally different, version of what you played, what you like. Definitely let me know in the comments what games, really shaped you on the Nintendo 64 and what were your favorites. Definitely let me know. But if you're not subscribed, guys, subscribe to the channel. And if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. But that's it. I'm the War Train, and I'm out. Have a good one, guys.